Hello and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We're going to give it just a couple minutes, see if anyone else is going to join in the next couple minutes, and then we can get started. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Litwinowitz. I'll be running our Lunch and Learn today. So we do have a couple pre-submitted questions, so we will be going through those first from Chris and Angel. But if anyone else comes up with any other questions or thinks of anything before we're done, please go ahead and just post those in the chat so we can get those answered to the best of our abilities. We will start with the first pre-submitted question from Chris Bug. Let me just get that real quick. All right, so the first pre-submitted question we have is trying to figure out how to make a report apply a variable filter upon loading on a dashboard or page. When a particular user visits a page, I want them to see records only pertinent to the user visiting without having to click a tile or something to apply the filter. So if there's anything extra that you want to add to that, Chris, go ahead and add, and then we can start talking about it.
Um, I figured out a way to do it, but I'm curious to see what the best practice is here.
Okay. Um, sure. So we can take a quick look. So that's not what I want. So my understanding, and we actually do this in one of our training projects at one point, is whenever you're building something, I'll just throw up travel requests as an example here. Um, add things here. That works for now. On anything, actually, we have some SQL. It's called the SQL-based filter. That this is the one that jumps out to me the most clearly, which is a current user filter. And so you can actually set this on pretty much any data source and compare items within that data source with um, the current user or whoever is currently logged in to decisions. And so when we set up a filter like this, you can select which field you want it to check against. And so it's got a number of folder related items um, automatically, but then you'll also see any items directly related to your data source. In this case, I just chose travel request. So I can actually grab any information that's in my data structure that I created or that I'm using this to report on and grab that. And so in this particular case, since I want to compare users, I do have a field in my Travel Splash project that's about email. And so I can actually compare the email that's in this particular data source with the email of the current user. And so then when this filter is applied, it'll actually only show information that this particular user has through this travel splash. So I do have a lot of random stuff. I don't know if in this folder, I don't know if I have. Yep, there we go. You can see now that I've reopened it. A bunch of that information that didn't actually have my name or my email attached to it is now cleared out. So if I were to put this on a dashboard, I would only see information that applies to me. That does require, I guess, that you have a field that you can compare with this filter because you do have to say, like, here's my email address. Here is a field that's attached to these things. Um, and stuff like that that I have there. So that is I guess, a little important, like a prerequisite that you kind of need. You may also have it in like the entity folder, maybe created by if you have like an item that's created by the user can be added. So there may be some like other options that are just kind of default that you can work with as well. Um, but the easiest is if you already have like an element that's being used on the account side of things. Email is the most obvious one. That's being used in this report. You can easily grab that, even if it's not actually being viewed in the report, but it exists. Um, Other thing that I did think about, and it kind of just depends on the use case, is you can also just do created by, um, like a created by filter. And so you can actually specifically grab entities that are only created by me, or in that case, because that would also be based on the user that's currently logged into decisions. If they're the one that created this item, then it should only appear for them there. So this one's a little less configurable because there's not like the options. It's specifically only items that are created by me will appear there. So like that's like a little bit more specific of a use case than this one where you kind of have a little bit of configurability with the different fields that you could compare with, um, and the different like user um, ideas. Does that help or lead towards kind of where you were thinking?
It does. I ended up I didn't do that, and that would have worked. But if I wanted to filter on something that isn't like an SQL user filter, well, I'll tell you what I ended up doing. I put an
Hmm.
invisible tile on the page,
Okay.
and when that tile loaded, it sent data to a selection bus, and then I had the report read off of that. So I don't know. I don't think that's the way. I don't know if there's other ways to do it. If you need to filter on something other than available user, it's SQL filters
Right.
because I got that too. But
Yeah.
yeah, my user email was an example. A
Yeah.
fortuitous one.
There's definitely I mean there's obviously a lot of options here, and it kind of just depends on how things are built and where information is. So like, like the SQL level with the SQL based filters is like the a nice easy one. Just because that's kind of there by default in a lot of the things. And so as long as you have like an email section or something, it's easy to connect to the users because the account is in SQL automatically. Um, yeah, I mean, there's always like other things. Like another thing that I kind of thought it definitely steered away from your example in the question. Um, but it's something that we do use, and it's a more recent project that we've created. I think you've already kind of completed your training by the time we had added a new project here. But if you have things that are structured in folders differently, you can actually do like a current folder filter. Um, and it kind of just depends on how your project is structured. But we have a newer project called financial lending, where the idea behind this is we have like a case entity that's someone submitting a loan application, and within that they're selecting the type of loan of whatever that particular type of loan is, and that loan type um, is a folder extension. And so what we can use with that is you can actually create so each individual loan type will have its own folder. And so the reports that are being utilized there actually have a filter that's for the current folder. So like if I open up this report, it has a for current folder filter. So it'll actually only show information that's within that folder. Um, if the information that you need filtered is about like specifically by user, then that's maybe a little different. This is more, I think, for something like it's got a different theme, right? In this particular case, it's all automotive loans are going to appear in this folder, and then maybe only like one or two specific managers have permissions to access that folder. So then they can go in and look at it. So it's like a different way to sort it, but you kind of have to have that planned out on like the project level, right, from the get-go, saying like, okay, whenever they select this type of loan, it's going to create a new folder here. And so now any automotive loan is going to go to this folder. But I have the same exact dashboard across all three of these. And so if I go to a new one, it's the same information, but it's just based on whatever's sitting in this folder. Um, so there's a lot of like, I guess, kind of more niche filters within that, depending on exactly what you're doing, you may need to like adjust or think about them. Um, but I think like current is one of those things. If you want it to be up to date about like what's actually happening, then you could be based on like the current folder that it's in, or if subfolders or parent folders matter, current users. Um, those are kind of the filters that stick out to me as being the kind of best practice or easier way to do those than kind of like what you explained of, having to have an invisible tile that reaches out to, and so on and so forth.
Cool,
So
thanks.
hopefully that kind of helps, you know, in the right direction at least.
Yep.
All right. The next pre-submitted question that we have is from Angel. And this question is, how do I remove duplicates in a report? This seemed kind of vague initially. So Angel, if you care to elaborate, I would love to try to help you understand a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I have a report that I'm utilizing for a drop down on a sub-dialog form, bus, a flow that a sub-dialog flow that has a form in it.
Hmm.
And because I'm pulling from three different data sources, I'm getting a lot of duplicates. So when I originally pulled it, it had about 5,000 um, 5,000 records in it. Now it's up to like 14,000 kind of thing. So I need to filter those out so they're not having to go through 20 of the same one in order to select it, because it's an add function to a database. Um, but I don't know how to go in. I can utilize it through either like the ID, or I can do it through the business name. I mean, even the addresses are the same or whatever, but for whatever reason, I can't find a filter that's allowing me to reduce those duplicate records before
Okay.
pulling in the drop down menu from the record or from the report.
Okay. So can you clarify just the beginning part, like what you're doing with it again, one more time, just for me?
Okay, so I'm utilizing this report in a drop down to add records in a sub dialog flow.
Okay. So you've got some form, your form's got a sub dialog button on it.
Hmm.
Oh, there's a space. Of course. All right. So you got a sub dialog, and then here you
I have
have,
a second form that's utilizing a drop down menu for a report that's pulling from three different databases.
so it's just a drop down list.
Yeah,
Okay. And then
and
what's your drop down list for pulling from?
it's pulling from a report that I've pulled data from three different databases.
Got it. Okay. All right. All right. So it's pulling from this report. Your report is grabbing data from three different databases, but you want to like set that to only show.
I want to filter that report so it's not showing all the duplicates. Like I've got one particular record that it's showing 9 times.
Got
So I
it.
don't
Okay.
want my users to have to go through because it's got so many records to start with. I don't want my user having to go through all these duplicates on top of. Obviously, that takes a lot of time to even just pull the report itself in,
Right.
let alone filter through it.
Right. Makes sense.
I assumed it would be through field, but there's not really a duplicate.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, like you'd have to specify, I guess, more specifically. Yeah. Hmm. Could just be another creating some kind of rule. Hmm. It's a really good question. I can see the problem. I'm trying to think if I can remember a solid way that this can actually be done.
Glad
Are
I'm not the
these
only one
so
perplexed.
so these items that are duplicates, do they have anything in common? Like, are they all like, because my thought could be like, are they created on the same day? Are they like
I don't,
very specific things, I guess? Because like
I
obviously a
don't,
name.
I don't know. It has the same name. It's an account. It has the same name, has same address, has the same ID. I mean, most of the information is all the same. In fact, whenever the fields that I'm utilizing, none of the data is different. But clearly, it's pulling from, because it's pulling from 3 different locations or 3 different databases. It's obviously even having duplicates within the database,
Yeah,
but I
within that
can't
database is
tell.
there.
Yeah, I can't necessarily tell where the difference is because
Got it.
I'm assuming it's because the fields I'm pulling in aren't showing it.
It almost seems to me like maybe the problem isn't something that can be. I think this is gonna stretch a little bit out of my expertise, I think. It seems to me like the problem isn't necessarily on what I can filter on the report level here,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's going to stem onto where that data in the database is being saved and stored.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, if you're getting 9 results across 3 databases that are all the same, or
Right.
at least seemingly very similar to being the same, then there's something that's even saving them within a database multiple times. And so I think
Right.
that's maybe the root of the problem that needs to be explored more. Um, I'm sure there's like some like SQL things. Like I know that you can join tables in SQL and stuff like that. That stretches a little out of my expertise a little bit.
Okay.
Um, so my guess is it would be something related to that that you could use to kind of figure out what's the problem there, or at least figure out like where that information is, or if you can write something that can send to a new report that you could pull from instead, um, then that might be the case. I think support team would definitely be able to help you out with this, at least directing you in the better direction to
Okay.
kind of diagnose exactly why there's so many duplicates and where to find from there.
Yeah.
So I think that would be
Like
your best bet there.
I've got one just going through the first 50. I've got one that has like 6 different ones, one that has 9, one has 2, another one has 2, another one has 4. It's like it's just different. And I'm sure you're probably correct. There definitely probably is a data a clean data issue as well.
Yeah.
But I just don't know that my management want me working on that side
Mm,
of the scope because it's not part of my job. Is
got it. Yeah, I understand that. Then
so okay.
even if that's the case, even if it's not about like specifically diagnosing, that they may the sport team may even just have like a suggestion or two
Okay.
about how to properly filter it because it may not be easily filterable here, but maybe by, like writing a query or something like that before we get to this report step, you can just
Okay.
populate a new report without the duplicates, and then you can
Right.
just pull from that report instead.
Okay. All right. I'll submit the ticket.
All right.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah, of course. All right. We've got another question. The next question that we had in the chat, from Mark. So it says, I want to expose a list of entities as an API, a simple get or list API. I want to be able to limit the results by adding pagination parameters, as well as search filters. So pretty much standard list view API. What is the easiest way of accomplishing this? I want to avoid building the whole page logic myself and either use pre-built block or maybe a report function. All right, Mark, I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk if you would like. And so you can expand a little bit on what you're looking for here.
Yeah, thanks. So that's pretty much simple question. I'm not sure what to add here. It's a simple list view of entities. Obviously, I may have a lot of entities in my database. So I just want to expose them in a right manner, basically limiting the results. So your typical pagination will be, you want to limit your results, and then you want to provide a page number to feed the list view to an external app or whatever. Usually that's extended by the search function. So if you have columns that you want to search through, or maybe you want to sort your columns, your results by ID or a number that's, part of your entity. It's pretty much typical SQL stuff. But I want to fetch the entities, expose it through the API with the pagination parameters. Obviously, I could probably do it from the scratch just by simply creating a flow where I would provide the parameters and maybe even, provide a search function that will somehow play around with the SQL queries. But I don't really want to do that. This seems to be like a very standard function. So I was hoping there is a function like that within the decisions that I can use, but I haven't found one.
Got it. Okay, give me 1 second then. Right. Um, right. Right. I'm just trying to get thinking about what I've got here. I definitely don't have a lot, personally, not a lot of expertise in the API stuff. I was just gonna kind of take a look at what we could do here with this. Um, um, so looking at how you can kind of pull this information. Hmm. I'm not sure if anyone on the call knows of any documents that talk about this on our doc site. I think that would be really the biggest question I have if I'm not as familiar with immediately.
I was actually hoping that maybe I could use the report function for it, because if you look at the report on its own, it's pretty much providing what you need. It has all the search filters. It has a
Right.
limit, function. Yeah, so it
I
does
guess
expose results, but it doesn't expose the. I haven't seen any way of adding. I mean, I haven't seen any documentation to adding parameters to the basically to the query string to limit,
right,
for example. Yeah.
right. Is there like a particular data type that you know like that you're starting with here? Is it something like you've created that you're using?
Well, I'm looking to expose number of entities, so it doesn't really matter. Whatever that is.
Okay.
It's like a simple structure of, I don't know, an ID and a name. That's fine.
Mm,
Yeah, that's it.
okay. I'm
So
just gonna add a folder just for taking a look at this. And just there's some things on here. Sure. Name and ID. Um, yeah, so I know like these, they're kind of they'll they're kind of like preset, I guess, um, to add things. Um, one thing I know for sure you could do, um, is it would require at least a little bit of um like thinking ahead, I guess. Would be something to do like I know because I know there's definitely I'm not as familiar with if we can add or manipulate what these filters are. On the SQL side, like I know we have our like kind of pre-built SQL-based filters here for user and folder. Um, but if like in a flow beforehand, you built like your kind of SQL or whatever it is that you want to create a filter for, and you can always filter it kind of beforehand. Which is kind of like what I was referring to a little bit with Angel in her question was like if you can filter something beforehand and then use that to populate this report, if you're kind of having trouble with figuring out exactly what if these filters kind of meet your needs,
yeah,
if you're
I
not
could do that probably through the UI, but then
right.
how do I make use of these filters through the API? If you configure the integration on your top
Mm,
right, then how would I make use of these filters through the API? Because it just simply gives me the list. I don't have any way to
mm,
trigger, filter, or manipulate, or sort, or anything.
right. Yeah, I guess I would think, yeah, not knowing as much, I guess if you have the list, I know on our flow level, you can always take a list of anything and sort it from there. That may not be exactly what we're looking for, but a lot
That's
of our,
exactly the thing I wanted to avoid, because I'm
right.
pretty can implement it from the scratch, but it seems to be like such a generic problem to solve. Then yeah, I thought maybe there is a baked
Yeah,
solution.
no, and I think you're right. It does seem like it. I just may not be the best person to give you that information, I think. I think this might be another one, the support team, or our like public Slack channel or something. Someone may be able to give you a little more information because I think you're right. I'm assuming there probably should be. It feels like there should be something there. Um, and if it's not, that's very likely something that like a feature request could go in for if it doesn't exist.
Okay, fine. If you can refer me to the right place, then I can go and ask.
Yeah, I would reach out to the support team and they
Yep.
could kind of they'll let you know like support@decisions.com and they should hopefully let you know if there is something that exists.
Yeah, I kind
Um
of already asked for support. I'm just waiting for the
oh, you
response.
have? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm hoping maybe I can get a quick answer from you.
Got it. Yeah. If that's the case, I think they should hopefully be able to let you know soon. And if it doesn't exist, then they'll work with your CS manager to get a feature request in if it doesn't exist. Because I think that that does seem like something that should exist if it's not.
Yeah, it just seems like a super generic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then yeah, I think your CSM could definitely help you get a feature request in so we can get that added to the system soon, hopefully.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. All right. We have another question from Manal. How does the guest account work with SAML? Can anyone create a guest account as long as they have a link to the form? How can we restrict guests to see any other projects on the portal? Um, okay, let's take a look here. Anyone create a guest account as long as they have a link to the form? Can we restrict guests to see any other projects on the portal? There definitely is some guest permission stuff you can set up. So sorry, I muted myself to cough and did not unmute. Um, uh, I'm not as familiar with SAML stuff specifically. I do know that there's definitely guest related like permissions and things you can add um, through the guest group and stuff like that that you can add on projects. So you can allow, guests specifically to allow to have access to certain things. So if you give permissions to guests to do to be allowed to use a form or something like that, they definitely can. So similar to how you would just manage permissions on something, you can set guest permissions because there is, the default, um, like there are like guest related things you can set up here. And there is a setting related to guests with the guest account. To like allow them to edit things as well. Like on the guest account, they need to make sure that they can use Portal and things like that. So that is definitely important to make sure it is set up. However, the only thing I'm not 100% sure on, because I don't have much experience with SAML specifically, is that first part of your question, um, with how that guest account actually works with SAML. Um, So again, I know for sure that you can definitely allow guest access to certain things so that you can have guests be able to run a flow with the proper permissions and run a open up a form and stuff like that. I think that first part I think is where, someone else with better expertise or maybe even just a better direction Not sure if the document site has anything that specifically talks about guest permissions in SAML at all.
Hey Jeremy, just one more thing. I can definitely like ask that with the support, but do you know like how does like can anybody just create a decisions account? How does it work? Like when they create it, do you know that part? Has a
Yeah,
guest?
you're talking
Mm.
about like within this.
Yes. Like for example, if I give somebody a link, for example, we have a prod server, it's on KMDMZ, somebody has a link, they have like now I can see like login has guest. So I can be anyone and I can log in. Where do their credentials just like reside? Like do they come in here in the accounts?
I believe that's all it's just tied to this. Like it doesn't actually create like a brand new account with a new email or anything like that. Like
Hmm.
these are only accounts that, I've created as an admin on my local account here, right? Like I can create the account and give it to someone and
Hmm.
like all those credentials and stuff are there, but that's someone that like on the admin side is creating this account to be used. Whereas um in the case of like a guest sign on or something, I believe it's only like a temporary. It's not like an actual full on like email name, all the other stuff that comes with an account. It's all kind of tied to the guest.
Okay, so every time they need to come back to the form or the link, they will have to create a new account.
I believe so. I'm not super familiar, I guess, but I think that's the case in here. Like if they're purely signing on as a guest and you're using it as guest permissions, then
Hmm.
yes, it's going to be like this every time. It's not going to be a specific, account with all the saved information and everything.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we have one last question so far. Um, so we still have 20 minutes if anyone else decides that they need anything else. Um, so we'll get this question answered. If anyone wants to add anything to chat, feel free. This will be your last chance before we get this question answered. So James has a question about PDF documents for viewing and updating them. James, if you can go ahead and clarify a little bit, and we can hopefully get your question answered.
Sure. Is it all right if I go ahead and share my screen just so we can see it better so I can explain it? Or would you rather not?
So
You
sorry,
talk
I
about it.
couldn't hear what you said. Can you say
Can
that one
I
more time?
share my screen so you can see it, or would you just
I
rather me
don't
talk
think we
with it?
can do that
Okay.
on this
All right.
particular account.
So what I have is all I want to be able to do is should be pretty simple, but I can't figure out a way to do it. I want to bring up a PDF document that exists already, and
Hmm.
it's fillable. So I just wanted, like I brought it up in PDF in the document viewer. They can fill it out there, but I can't save that data to continue my flow and then like email that document that I just filled out as a completed document. I can save it through the document viewer. It has the save button and all that stuff, but I can't continue on with my flow that I can see from with that document information and then send it as an attachment to, in an email or something like that with it
Hmm.
as filled out document. Unless there's another way to do it and I just can't figure it out.
Okay. So you've got a form with a doc viewer, right? They open it
Mhm.
up, they fill out the form because the PDF is already like fillable.
Yep.
And then and you're saying you're having trouble like getting them to actually be able to save that and then use it.
Yeah, save the actual PDF as a filled out document now, and then send it off like in an email to somebody else to do their part.
Right, right. Got it. So we got a form. We have a document viewer.
Yeah,
I'm just doing this because I think my document viewer is expecting okay. All right. So we'll have one that's able to be filled out. They can submit it here.
mhm.
And then they do All right, so
I'll try to
open up a
email
form, they
Yeah.
fill it out, whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And then it's
I just want
gone.
to email that with the filled out data,
Right.
and I don't see a way to do that unless I'm just missing it.
Yeah.
I didn't set
So
it up correctly. Mhm.
this is so my initial thought is because this is just like a viewer, right? It's only going to
Right,
display this thing. It's not actually outputting anything.
right.
So my thought process is that we'll need to add something here that can actually allow us to do something with it, right?
Mhm.
Take whatever file is being displayed here and
Right,
download it when they finish completing it.
right,
You know,
right.
whether that's a button that can do that. That's why I kind of did this. I don't know if that I don't know what you have to place in this file. Or I don't know if it doesn't how it tells you what the
I guess my question is how do you what's in the document viewer is no longer, like you just said, it's not outputtable. So even if you have a download,
Mhm.
where do you grab it? I mean, how do you grab the filled out form?
Right. Right. Yeah, it's not really like this doesn't have an output.
Yeah, that's the whole issue is there's just no output from the document viewer, and the document viewer is the only thing I know of that will allow you to edit a document.
Works far here now, but so in an active form flow, you can get the data
Oh yeah,
from
I know
this,
that. Yeah, I'm
but
very
I'm
aware that
assuming
I
it
can get the
doesn't
data.
it doesn't take, does it not like take any added content then? Is that the case?
Um, no, the cases that I can't get the data, I could set up I could set up the flows that will grab the data off the form and then either repopulate the form with it. But I don't want to have to do. I just want them to go into the form, fill it out, and send it. And that way, I can make a flow that's um, autonomous of whatever the form is. It doesn't matter. It's just going to pick it up and they fill it out and it sends it. I don't have to do anything with the data. I don't need to know what the data is on the form. It just
Hmm.
displays it. They fill it out. It sends it. That's kind of what I'd like to do. Just have a simple flow that I can put any form into that a user can just go in and fill out whatever that form is that I input into that flow, and it sends it to wherever I want it to be sent to.
Right.
I don't want to have to know what's on the form.
Right. Yeah. Let me see. I guess what I was thinking or what I was checking is like, let's just say I take your document viewer, right? And I use a set
Mhm.
control value, for example,
Right.
to take information from the document viewer and
Okay.
the data that's there,
Okay.
right? And to just place it somewhere else, right? I did this as an example. I don't think this is going to do exactly what it might not do exactly what I'm expecting, but the idea is this isn't like specific to the data. It's just
Right.
saying this will take what's in the document viewer and
Mhm.
put it on a download button. Just
Okay.
more for a
Okay.
testing for now, right? So
Okay.
if I do this,
Be interesting to see what that looks like.
on click, will it download? So let's say I've got this document viewer, right? I've got all these items on it.
Mhm.
Let's say I fill out some information, right? Because this thing can be filled out, whatever it's got on it. And then I hit download file. I don't know if this is actually going to do it. I don't think it actually downloaded it though. It definitely ran this, but I don't think I configured that quite properly or quite the way I wanted. I didn't actually get anything to download on my computer. Yeah, I definitely didn't do something quite right. I make that.
Yeah, I think the problem is that you're never going to know. There's no way to grab the form, the data off that form because it only exists in the document viewer. It never goes, it's not accessible to anything else. The
Right.
fields might be like you were, that step you just had where it picks, it's going to pick the fields off, but there's no data in those fields at that point.
So the reason I was doing it this way, I'm not 100% sure if that's doing what I'm looking for. The reason so I know that we have these,
Mhm.
so it's similar to set PDF form fields,
Right.
but this one gets them. So
Right.
the idea here is if you have a PDF file to grab,
Right.
then it can grab it and it can actually output those fields.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I was trying to do here is say if there's a way that I can grab what's in the document viewer and
Right.
just download it
Right.
or do something with it, get
Right.
it to be placed somewhere else.
Right.
Then I'll have an output. So then I
Right.
can go into here and it'll actually be able to like take those values and
Yeah.
do something with them.
Yeah, I think that's the
Um,
crux of the issue. Is there's no way to grab that, what's in the document viewer. It doesn't have any way to output that, or, once it views it, it's just static at that point.
right.
It doesn't allow you to get the change data in any way, shape, or form. So there's nothing to grab in a download or a select. I mean, you can save the file off again, I guess, and save it to your own drive and then download it. But that seems kind
Right.
of convoluted, for a user
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have
I
to
was
do.
definitely trying to avoid that because I mean it definitely is a workaround, but it obviously is not the
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. I'm wondering if there's a way I could automatically save it off somewhere so the user doesn't know. But again, I would have to interact with that form somehow, and I can't do it.
right. I'm gonna try looking at one more thing, see if this changes anything. Form control doesn't even let you do that. Change it to a file reference. Document viewer is a file reference. That'll change the way that this works. They don't need to work. just fill out some information. Didn't have to download anything. I may just be using the download file button wrong, but it doesn't actually seem like it's doing anything different. Yeah, no, it doesn't seem to be doing actually that. Hmm. Yeah, I understand your predicament. I think just in what I've got in my mind right now,
Mhm.
it seems like unless I'm missing something with how it is, this seems to be the only approach that gets, I guess, close to what you're looking for, but it still doesn't quite seem to,
So you set
you
up an
know,
active form control behind that
yeah.
download button.
Yeah, I tried the
Mm.
download button. It might be just that it needs to go somewhere else.
So what you were doing though is grabbing, what were you grabbing with that flow?
Yeah, so I was just I really wanted to see. I wasn't sure if this is gonna like what it actually grabs, but
Yeah,
I was obviously this form control is not gonna work. It probably needs to go somewhere else. But the value I was trying to grab was the value from the document viewer,
right.
right? So if I could grab the file data from the document viewer, but the only thing that I don't know that I was trying to test, and I think if it's not this download button, it might work with something else. Um, like we need a different uh something else that can view like hold information.
Well, could you, I mean, behind any button, couldn't you put a whole flow that would just send whatever's in that document viewer and save it off as a PDF or something? If you've got the information there,
Yeah,
couldn't it be any button?
yeah, that is true. It doesn't have to be that
Hmm.
specifically. I guess
Because the
really
flow
the
would
only
take care of,
question is,
yeah. I mean, if that would work, I hadn't thought about that because I didn't know that that the file data was, or that the document data was actually available in
yeah,
the document.
I think that's the only real question is is that actually the document's data,
Hmm.
or is that just, well, um like is that the document's data, or is this just the initial document? I
Hmm.
think that's the only thing there. Like, does this include the values that someone types in on the PDF,
Hmm.
or is it just going to be the base document that was
That was in
passed
there.
into the viewer? That's the
That's
thing that
interesting.
I was hoping the download button would work, 'cause I could like download the PDF and just see it.
Right,
But
right.
initially, that's not it. I think that's I guess the test
Hmm.
is if you grab information, whether it's from set control value or something else, um, that can like hold that information or whatever, that can hold file data. Can
Hmm.
you just grab that from the
Hmm.
document viewer here
Right,
within an
right,
active form flow? And if that contains the information, then great. Then that's perfect. That's exactly what you want.
right.
Wait, actually, I don't know why I didn't think about this before. Um, I wonder if even just putting like this,
It's like,
and this I select from
ah, okay,
my
yeah,
document viewers data.
okay. We can just see the output from that step, right?
Possibly, yes. So if I take a look at this, type in information, whatever.
So look at the rule, yeah. See what we got.
Like
Oh,
it
it
didn't
didn't
save.
save that.
I make an oopsie or did it miss? No,
That's
I
right.
definitely saved it.
Huh, that's interesting.
Close out of it fully and try to. Really? It's gonna do this to me now. See if this changes it.
Are you guys working on the same training instance we are working on, or?
This is my local computer, so
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what's happened. I don't think I've actually restarted it in a while, so that might just be something got in the way. Let's try this one more time. So now it's just not gonna work. And maybe it can't actually grab them. Yeah, it might not actually do it.
Hmm.
It's not running. It doesn't think that I have these things. I mean, I can try just resetting what I have in here, clearing the data and picking it again, but it might not actually hold it in that way. Yeah, it's not actually saying it.
Mhm.
It's saying that there's something's actually null.
Oh,
So
I
yeah, it
wonder
might
if
just
because
not
you
be able
didn't
to
fill
grab
out
that.
all the fields, I don't know. Yeah,
Nah, the other fields are true and falses, so it would just mark up.
okay,
If they're
okay.
unclicked, it'll be true or false. So it's definitely not that.
Okay.
But the only other thing, I'll try one more quick thing. I'll change it to file data, see if that changes anything. Otherwise, in this case, I think it might just not work. Doc viewer. Care about that. This test. That's right. It's not letting me- I don't think this thing- that. My sample file. Let's see if it changed anything. Okay. Yeah, it's not gonna work. I don't think it's. I don't. I mean, you must not be able to actually grab what's in the doc viewer in that
Hmm.
way. So unfortunately, that would lead me to believe, and again, there may be something that I'm missing.
Hmm.
Not sure if it's worth to you asking the support team if they know anything better or not. But for me, I'm looking at this. I don't see any like obvious thing I've missed.
Mhm.
I know that this would work. So the things that we mentioned about having it get downloaded and then do it, or have them fill it out first and then like upload the filled out one will allow you to do whatever with it.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
ready to create a flow to do all that. It's just like, I know we have some very generic documents that
Right.
I guess is gonna, and they could add them to the repository if they want to, and just, it gets filled out, it gets sent somewhere, and that's about the extent. So we don't want to write flows for every little document that they
Right.
might want to
Right.
have
Yeah, I get
come
that.
online. So, all right, I'll probably reach out to support just to see if they have anything, and then,
Mhm.
yeah, it would be nice to have something like that though.
Yeah.
That you could just basically fill it out, because obviously you can fill it out with this document viewer. It just doesn't, there's no step that outputs it again.
Yeah, I get that.
Hmm,
Well,
okay,
yeah, hopefully they have some good enlightenment on that then, and then we can get that figured out from there.
sure. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, yeah, of course.
All right.
Yep. Thank you everyone else who has attended today. This was a great lunch and learn, a lot of good stuff happening. If you need anything else, please reach out. The rest of this week we've got Will, Jared, and Robert leading the rest of the lunch and learns this week, so we'll be happy to help any other questions. Thank you for watching today.